So how did you and John, what was the first time you actually met?
John Convertino and myself, we met in the early 1990s in Los Angeles through a mutual friend who was an engineer at Radio Tokyo Studios in Venice Beach. And John and I met through the group Giant Sand, who needed an upright bass player, and so I was hired to play in the band. And John and I went on to be a rhythm section for a lot of other artists as well, like Victoria Williams, Michael Hurley, the famous folk singer, Bill Janovitz, the musician and singer from Buffalo Tom, and we worked with Barbara Manning, who was on Matador Records, and yeah, we've enjoyed playing together as a rhythm section for many years, and then we wound up playing in a group called the Friends of Dean Martin, which is kind of a lounge band from Arizona. And then shortly after, we started writing our own songs, and just for fun, we just would record at each other's homes on cassette recorders or on reel-to-reel 8-track machines. And we soon then, put out a Calexico record, and from there, kind of gradually developed naturally. We've stayed together ever since.
But what made you stay together?
I think just the respect for one another, really liking each other, being friends, and enjoying working. We really are passionate about music, and that still is true today.
So you've written a lot of music together. So
Yes.
how do you keep it, fresh, maybe?
Well, I think collaborating with other people is really fun and spontaneous, and you never know what you're going to get. And so on this new record, Edge of the Sun, we asked a lot of the people that we've backed on other projects to come and help us out on this. So especially this record, really seems to stand out in that respect, where it has that spontaneity with other people appearing almost on every song.
But when you write, and do you ask him for an opinion?
Of course, all the time.
Are there songs of which he said, well, I don't know really if we should bring that out?
That happens all the time, yeah.
And
yeah.
do you compromise, or
Sure.
what happens?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we want to make sure that not only we're happy with it, but also some of our friends that have helped produce this album too. Sergio Mendoza, the keyboardist in our group, he has his own project called Orquesta Mendoza, which is a really great indie mambo band out of Tucson. He's offered a lot of input on this record. Even the bass player, Ryan Alfred, who also has a project called Sweet Ghosts, he offered a lot of opinions in the very beginning of the tracking, and we all worked together. The engineer, Chris Schultz at Wavelab, had a lot of input. Craig Schumacher, the mixing engineer, also has a lot of input. So everyone kind of works together as a team, and ultimately, we kind of make decisions as a group. Of course, I'm the main songwriter, so I'm coming up with a lot of ideas, but part of that is to have John there as a source of feedback, and I really respect and I love his intuition and the ideas that he gives back.
And was there one song on this album that went through this process that you remember, recall?
It seems like every song. Well, one of the songs I played just now, well, two of the songs were written and recorded in Mexico City, Falling from the Sky and When the Angels Played. And both those came off pretty simply. We didn't really have to do much with them. But with Falling in the Sky, we did some editing. We tried re-recording the song in Tucson at Wavelab Studio, and we weren't getting anywhere. It didn't feel like we were making a better statement than what we had done in Mexico City. So we decided just to keep what we had done and edit some things in the computer to make the song feel more cohesive.
Well, you mentioned this song already. I read about it that it could be about not knowing where life is heading sometimes, and also a bit of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Was there any nostalgia for you in writing the record? Or any song maybe? For
sure, I mean, there's varying degrees of nostalgia, like the song, the second song I performed, or the first song I performed here today, which is called Woodshed Waltz. In some ways I was thinking about, some of the other tunes that we've done in the past that have waltz and the time signature of 3/4. And that song too, I think, the lyrics are calling to a time and they're dealing with a character who's not looking back, but yet is kind of carrying the past around with him, you know, changing the disguise, but keeping the crown, like a box full of letters you drag from town to town. I mean, that character is just immersed and surrounded almost in a pile of nostalgia, you know, and is not seeing the reflection in the present, you know, maybe is kind of clouded by the past, almost as if, you know, there's, you know, smoke, like a screen, you know, kind of covering this person's vision. And so that's, you know, just one example, and I could probably give a whole bunch and keep you here all day and night talking about each and every song. But there's something about nostalgia, I think, that helps give us a sense of perspective from where we can go forward. And a lot of the characters in the songs are moving forward. The song Falling in the Sky, which I performed, asks, where do you go? You know, when you have, or where do you fall when you have nowhere to go? And where do you go when you have no one to see? And it's kind of, it's asking these important questions about what do you do next? You know, where are you going to? Or the song Cumbia de Donde? You know, I'm not from here, I'm not from there, where am I going, should I care? You know, it's about reminding oneself of being in the moment, and it kind of strips away all definition of identity, whether it be race or culture or nationality. It's kind of trying to get to the core of ourselves and our beings.
Are they in a way these characters based on yourself?
They're based on a lot of things in and around ourselves, I think. You know, like a lot of songs, I think they tap into the world around us and the feelings inside as well, and how we relate. So yeah, there's definitely connections in a lot of the songs to ourselves, to myself.
In what way, to yourself?
Oh, I'm asking those questions on a daily basis. You know, life changes, and so you have to be open to change in order to move forward. You can't stay the same. And sometimes it's easy to address these questions, and sometimes you need help from others, or you need an experience to address these things. And
Miles to the Sea, it's maybe going forward on the nostalgic thing a little bit, because you grew up by the sea, and then so was it a song that reminded you of your childhood, or?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think sometimes you know, your life can help infer and give a starting point to a song, but I'm not sure if that song isn't necessarily is about myself. I think it's just about chasing that dream, and sometimes we're haunted by the dream in a good way, and sometimes it kind of overcomes us and swallows us whole.
And what's the dream in this case?
In this case, well, I mean, everyone can interpret that dream however they like, but you know, there are dreams where there's a positive goal that you're looking for, or there's hopes and desires and dreams, and then there's actual dreams in which you're falling, and so it can almost be like a recurring dream, and so there's a feeling of being trapped, sort of, in a pattern of life, and dreams can help give some perspective on where we're at in our lives, and in that song, you know, there's somebody that is on the hillside, and who's all the while they're digging, and they're discovering these large skeletons beneath the surface. It kind of alludes to a bigger picture of where we might be in the scheme of things. You know, my daughters are 3.5 years old. I have twin daughters, Twyla and Genevieve, and my wife Nova and I are reading to them all sorts of stories. They kind of open the world to young people about, you know, dinosaurs and this life, and it's been a while since I've read stories like that, and it's refreshing to be reminded of this bigger picture of really what we're made of, where we came from, and what was here before, and where are we going.
So the childhood perspective kind of influences the music.
Sure, it influences a lot of things. It influences not only the music, but the writing of the lyrics and the experience of being in the moment and reminding you that this is it, just this moment. You and I here talking about art and music and life, and these things are really important to be really fully present.
Okay. And another, well, Bullets and Rocks, the song, it touches upon immigration. It's something that you've discussed in albums before.
Sure.
Why does this topic speak to you so much?
Well, I think it's always been intriguing for me, and I've sympathized with immigrants. Our nation, the United States of America, is built on immigrants, and both John Convertino and my family's backgrounds are based on people coming over.
From where?
From John's family comes over from Italy. A big portion of his come from Bari, Italy, in the south. My family comes from Ireland mostly, and so it's. And I was also born in Montreal, Canada, and so I had to officially become a citizen fairly early on. My parents are U.S. citizens, so the process was relatively easy, but still it was a very serious moment early on. I remember my dad telling us, like, all right, now no laughing, and I want you guys to behave, be still, be quiet. And it was a very serious moment. We had to sign the papers and all this stuff, and I remember the feel of that occasion. It stayed with me. Not only that, but growing up in Southern California, I really appreciated various cultures. My mother and father would travel and they'd come back, and they'd bring back mementos, and a lot of those were songbooks or music albums, LPs from Mexico, from New Orleans, from Haiti. I mean, it was just, they rejuvenated the household, and the spirit really changed. You know, when they came back, my mom would play a lot of Scott Joplin ragtime piano pieces, or she would sing songs in Spanish. My mom sings and plays piano a lot still, and it's kind of what brought us together as a family. You know, on special occasions we'd all meet at the piano and sing songs or play songs together, and that really means a lot to me, and it's meant a lot to me throughout my life, and it's kind of encouraged me to go on and continue doing that.